Welcome to your AMAC Weekly News, a special show that is all about you and dealing with the coronavirus. Today, we have brought in our experts to talk about three different things that are affecting your life. We're going to talk about the politics of what is happening in Washington. We're going to talk with a doctor about health and social distancing and what you should be doing. And we're also going to talk about your finances today and what you need to be doing when it comes to your personal protection and savings, your 401k, your retirement accounts. This show, as I said, is all about you as an AMAC member and what information we can give to you to help you through this coronavirus outbreak. As I said before, today is going to be about information and information only that can help you and your family as we all are dealing with a difficult time. Your AMAC Weekly News starts right now. First up today on your AMAC Weekly News, we're going to talk about the financial markets. This is something that has affected so many Americans, especially seniors. Many people worked for decades to try to protect themselves, to save, to not have to worry during retirement. Well, all of that has changed over the last couple of weeks. So what can you do specifically for you and your family to protect yourself? Our financial experts sat down with me earlier today to talk exactly about that issue. My guest with me now is a man that's been doing this for 37 years, John Caffrey. He is the president of Rosemark Advisors. They're exclusively providing a financial service for AMAC members. John, you've been doing this, like I said, 3+ decades. Have you ever seen anything like what we're seeing in the markets right now?
No, never. I've been through the '08 fiscal crisis to 9/11, the dot-com bubble burst back in '99 through 2000. I was exposed to '87, but no, it's unprecedented.
So when you talk to people that are calling you, and for many people that are watching right now, you've got this PTSD basically from opening up your statement either in the morning or at night. You see these 1,000 point drops overnight, even after a good day the day before. And the number one question that I know people are asking is, should I just get out of the markets altogether if I'm a little bit older and just let this thing ride out and protect my assets, or should I stay in the market even with all this volatility?
So with the fiscal stimulus that just was brought to light yesterday, and then also with the Fed doing what it's doing, I would say that no, you shouldn't get out of the market. If you're in the market at this point, you should ride it through. The most important thing that you can do, though, is make sure that you're properly diversified. It's a little too late for a lot of people that were overweight equities because they're going to be impacted by that volatility that you just mentioned. But I go back to when you're working with a planner and you're going through the process of understanding what your financial situation looks like, and you're constantly revisiting that, it's all about cash management. If you have enough cash on the sidelines, this is a time to ride through this and not start selling into volatile markets, because you're locking in that loss. If you're in a cash crunch situation, then sadly you will have to sell in order to create that cash to deal with your month-to-month or your year-to-year your cash requirement. But if you have cash on the sidelines, you should be waiting this through.
You know, one of the things that I've noticed is even with my own parents and my in-laws, we've had that conversation about their portfolio. They were more in kind of a mentality with their advisor of, hey, I want to make some money, but I don't want to take big risks. And even now they feel like they were in a very risky market based on these losses. And the fear factor comes in here of, oh my gosh, I'm losing so much money, even though I said to them, put it in perspective of what you gained over the last 3 years. The gains in my in-laws and my parents' accounts were significantly above what they were expecting in a low-risk category with their diversification. And so, yes, you have some of this coming out of there, but I told them, look, you're still on very good footing moving forward. And I told them, stop looking at your accounts. Is that the right advice?
Yeah, continuous return. Looking at your accounts, I think everybody should look at their accounts. Continuous return or consistent return in a portfolio is created over time. It's not from February 19th, where the S&P was at an all-time high of 3393, and then looking where it is today, below 2,400. That is certainly an issue when you're looking at your account tick by tick or day by day. You have to look at it over a long-term period, not only looking back, but also looking forward. The expectation for clients needs to be dealt with on a day-to-day basis by their advisors. But looking at the process of making sure that your parents, your in-laws, my parents, my in-laws are properly allocated, that's only part of it. I go back to cash management. If you don't have between 6 and 12 months of your monthly expenses set on the sidelines, that's when you have high anxiety. When you're looking at markets cratering the way they are. Excuse me, if you have cash on the sidelines, you have the ability to wait this through and let the fiscal stimulus, let the Fed do what it's doing. If you go back to 2008, if you look at September 2008 through September 2009, if you did not sell and you had a diversified portfolio, you were going to be okay. It was those people that locked in those losses in September and October of 2008 that were impacted and were not able to get back to ground zero, for a very long period of time. You need to stay in it.
Yeah.
But the issue is that you have to have the cash on the sidelines. That gives you the ability to do that.
My guest, John Caffrey, the president of Rosemark Advisors. I want to ask you one last question about stimulus, and you mentioned this earlier, with the Fed putting in literally now trillions of dollars. How is what we're in and what they're doing now different from '08? A lot of people said, hey, federal government came in '08 and tried bailouts, and much of it did not work, right? We tried to do some things to save some businesses, and still we had a terrible downturn. Why is it this time it looks like it would be very different? And I think a lot of it's because we had such a healthy economy when we went into this coronavirus downturn.
That is correct. You hit the nail on the head. Looking at where the banks are, we'll start there. The banks are in very good shape. They certainly do not have the issues that they had in the 2006-07 period of time that led up to the '08 fiscal crisis. This is a crisis. I wouldn't say that it is a fiscal crisis, but it is certainly a crisis that the banks are going to be in the forefront to fight. They're going to be the organizations that lend to small businesses and make sure that those businesses have the liquidity they need to get through this. So the big difference between the '08 crisis and the 2020 crisis, the 2020 crisis, is that I would say that the banks are in solid footing.
My guest with me, again, John, the president of Rosemark Advisors, Caffrey. John, for people that are listening or watching right now, my last question to you is, what do you expect over the next 30 days? What do you expect over the next 6 months, kind of short-term and long-term, so people can kind of get their head around this, at least when it comes to financial markets?
So the next 30 days, we see continued volatility. We do not see this going away over the next 30 days. If you look at what happened in Asia and China, as it relates to the number of cases from the coronavirus, those numbers did not start leveling off until the late part of February, early part of March. And that, again, if you look at the first cases, they were December. So, if you look at the next 30 days, we're expecting the European area to go through the same thing that China did, the escalation of coronavirus cases. Then the U.S. is going to be in a similar situation. We're seeing lockdowns, or I'll call it lockdowns, but certainly areas of the United States that are being closed, which is impacting the markets in those areas, the economy in those areas. So over the next 30, 60 days, we're going to see a financial impact. Now, where are we going to be 6 months from now? We put aside the idea of recession. There's going to be a downturn in the markets. There's going to be a downturn in the economy. But I think with what the Fed has done by dropping rates, with the fiscal stimulus that the Secretary Mnuchin has come out with and then presented, I think that there's going to be an ability for us to come out of this. Are they talking about two GDP quarters, two negative GDP quarters? They're certainly going back and forth about recession. In my opinion, what we see a leveling off. From a GDP standpoint, I think that the economy, as you stated, was extremely strong coming into this. We're going to see unemployment go up. Is there going to be an inflation issue? I don't think so. Look at where oil prices are. I think that we're going to get out of this in 6 months. The fourth quarter of 2020, we're going to see some of those, the fiscal stimulus and what the Fed is doing positively impact not only the U.S. citizen, but also the small businesses. As we move through this over the next 30, 60 days, we're going to get much more clarity. I think that we have to be diligent in our approach as it relates to managing risk within portfolios, whether you're doing it on your own or you're working with an individual in the financial area. But again, it's about cash management, getting you through this period of time, and we will come out on the other side in a positive way.
John Caffrey, the president of Rosemark Advisors, thanks for coming on. For members that want to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, I mean, you can reach directly out to AMAC. Certainly have the ability to get that information through the AMAC website or through the Rosemark website.
Awesome. John, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on.
Pleasure.
As today we break down the basic questions that so many of our members have been asking. The other issue was, what should I be doing when it comes to self-quarantining, social distancing, even simple things like going to the grocery store or picking up prescriptions? Should I be hanging out with my kids or my grandkids if they are out in public much more than I am? Well, we sat down with a doctor and she talked about the things that you can do to protect yourself and what you should be doing to protect yourself from the coronavirus. All right, joining me now is Dr. Marion Mass, and we wanted to talk to our members about what you can control when it comes to the coronavirus and protecting yourself. Doctor, I love that you are practicing, staying at home. I love your outfit. There's not many days you get to see a doctor in a great robe like that. So I'm glad we got to bring a little humor to this interview. I want to start with the basic issue for seniors. Should you be self-quarantining and staying at home as much as you possibly can? Let's start with that.
Of course, Ben. I think seniors should be prudent. We don't know what we don't know about the peak of coronavirus because we just started testing. We can talk more about this, but coronavirus could have been all over the country already. There's no harm as a senior in staying inside, trying to avoid places where you could pick up germs of any sort. If you think about it, you're a senior, even if you got a fever from a cold or a flu, that's not good for you anyway. And you're going to get yourself worried more if you have a fever. You're going to worry that you have coronavirus. So staying inside, why not consider calling some neighbors or looking for a local group who can potentially go out and get you groceries, drop them on your doorstep, get you supplies if you need them. Maybe even as seniors, having a little phone line with each other so that you're speaking to each other, making sure that you're not feeling socially isolated.
Let's talk about what kids and grandkids. One of the big questions is, you have maybe some underlying health conditions. I have a parent that has cancer. I have a father-in-law that has cancer. We have grandkids. They want to be around them, but the reality is they're at much higher risk. When it comes to being careful, if you have underlying health issues, should you be spending a lot of time around kids or others that are, in fact, probably out in the world hanging out with other kids, even with school being canceled? There's a lot of people out there, the younger, saying, I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to get this. I'll be fine. The reality is they can carry coronavirus, not even know it, and get you infected, and you could be in serious trouble. We've seen those numbers in Italy spike, the mortality rate of those 60 plus.
Absolutely. And there's a couple angles you brought up here and really great ones. And this pains me to say, I'm a pediatrician and I think that grandparent relationship is so important. My children really cherish that with my own parents. I think you should really avoid children. As a pediatrician, I can tell you that they are one of the premier vectors for any type of germ that's out there. I mean, you think about what kids do. I mean, I hate to show, I'm not going to wipe my nose, but they're like this, and then they're touching things. And, children are just naturally sticky. It's a beautiful thing most of the time. But for the elderly, and especially those who have chronic diseases, any who may have cancer, any who may have diabetes, any who may have heart disease, all of whom will take this virus worse than anyone else, they should be staying away. And I think actually Italy is a testament to that. In Italy, a lot of people have asked me, why do you think that it's hitting so hard in Italy? Well, there's a couple reasons, Ben. Their life expectancy is longer than in America by about 7 or 8 years. Their birth rate is lower, so a huge proportion of their population is over 75. And I love Italians. I've been to Italy. It's one of my favorite countries. They're so ebullient and friendly. And how do they greet each other?
Yeah.
Kiss on each cheek.
They hug and kiss.
Sadly. Yes, the kiss of death, unfortunately, these days. It's so tragic. So I think, like in our population in America, one of the things, watch the numbers in Italy. I did see a chart today that looks like in Italy, it's starting to come down a little bit, which is nice. I think we still have to be prudent over here. I think take a little bit of comfort in the fact that it may just not get as bad in Italy, here in America, as it is in Italy. However, of course, as Americans, let's just take the Boy Scout motto and be prepared.
Yeah, one of the things about Italy, and there's the yin and yang here, Italy is very much like New York City with dense population. We are much more spread out overall in the entire country. That's good news compared to Italy, that we're not just, we're not so dense of a populated area per acre, per square mile, et cetera. One of the things that also I think is very concerning about Italy and the numbers is this is honestly probably the first real truthful data that we're getting out of a nation. We cannot trust the numbers coming out of China and their death rate and who got it and how many people survived and how many people didn't, because we know that they've been lying to their own people, much less the rest of the world, to save face on this coronavirus outbreak. Italy seems to be telling the honest, truthful numbers, and that's why it's so concerning for seniors, I think, is to say, look, you got to make sure that you can at least control your environment. Basic things like if you have kids or grandkids or neighbors or people that are younger that can go get your food for you, that can go out in the world and get your prescriptions, that can go, or you can have things shipped to your door. Those are things that you can control in this, time of worry, where you say, look, I can only control what I can control. And that is, I think, what you're letting people know is, look, be smart about this. If you have someone that can go to the grocery store for you, get them to do your shopping for you.
Oh, perfect. Absolutely. And, of course, the things that everyone talked about from the beginning, staying 6 feet away from people. This is a droplet spread. So you cough, the droplet lands on you, you touch your arm, you touch your face. So washing your hands frequently, preventing touching your face, which is what it's going to take to get, for the most part, into your body, staying away from anyone who's coughing, of course, and all the things that you suggested. Absolutely.
So really, this is an issue of, if you are a senior, don't think you're immune from this. You're more at risk than anybody else in our population. Be careful who you're around. That includes family members and young children. Self-quarantine yourself as much as possible for the next few weeks could be the difference between you getting infected or others getting infected and protecting and saving your life. And that's really all that you can control, is your own environment. And that's the point I think so many seniors need to understand. There's so much that we can't control. There's a lot of fear out there. There are certain things, though, that you can control. And you as a doctor saying this is where you need to focus.
Perfect. And one other little thing I'll add, if you're a senior and you get like a cold, like a little sniffle, a little cough, a little scratch in your throat, maybe even a tiny low-grade fever, I wouldn't run to the ER. Call your physician first, because right now all around the country, physicians are starting to do some, just yesterday, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services expanded the use of telehealth, so that we as physicians can take care of you, give you advice, and try to keep you home. Because I can tell you, as a frontline, physician who works with other frontline physicians and nurses, the easiest place to get sick, it's the hospital, it's the emergency room, it's the doctor's office.
Yeah, sitting that way. And that's the reason why I was seeing the CDC, and I give a lot of credit to the CDC and this coronavirus task force rolling out in such a quick way these testing sites. And I say people are mad that they're not already open everywhere. They're opening up very quickly around the country, these drive-throughs, and that's what a lot of doctors are saying. Please don't come sit in the office for 45 minutes or an hour. Don't go to the ER if you don't have to go to the ER. These drive-throughs are going to be critical in making sure we get people what they need. But again, this is all about protecting yourself and your environment. Dr. Marion Mass, I appreciate you coming on so much. We'll talk to you again real soon.
It's my great pleasure. Thank you so much, Ben. And everyone be safe out there. And just so you know, I wear the robe because I want to actually remind myself not to be a quack.
There you go.
It's got ducks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Whether you like it or not, the government is involved in every aspect of the response to coronavirus. And the political side of this is one that should worry everybody, because the government is talking about spending trillions of your tax dollars, and they say it's going to make things better. Well, there's already members in Congress who are trying to put in their own pork barrel projects, things that have nothing to do with the coronavirus response. So how should you be involved, and what should you be saying to your member of Congress or senators or even your governors? We dealt with that issue earlier today with the CEO of AMAC. Here it is. Rebecca Weber, I appreciate you obviously coming on your AMAC Weekly News. I want to kind of give people an overall look at what is going on in Washington with the prospect of a financial bailout. One of the big concerns I know that AMAC has been on Capitol Hill fighting for is making sure that whatever the government does, there's not a lot of pork barrel spending and things in these bills that have nothing to do with coronavirus or the immediate financial needs of people in this country.
Thank you, Ben. Appreciate you having us on here today. Ben, AMAC has been very much paying close attention. We see that the Democrats are up to their old shenanigans. They are trying to squeeze in things like funding for abortion, which AMAC and our membership is against. And so AMAC is very much paying very close attention and watching out for our membership.
You know, when you look at our members, many people that are older, they're looking at their retirement accounts. We talked about this earlier with our financial guest about what people are having to deal with and seeing these numbers come down. What are some of the things that AMAC is advocating for that would give instant relief to members, to seniors in this country, all over America that may be in a situation where they say, okay, I got to cover some unexpected bills?
AMAC is working closely with Congress. We're urging Congress to suspend any penalty that seniors make from their retirement accounts. This is a time right now, a crisis, where folks are going to need to get at money that they may not otherwise have needed. And so AMAC is urging Congress to do a few things. We also are working very closely to ensure that in 2021, that AMAC members do see a guaranteed cost of living increase in their Social Security.
You know, when you talk about some of these things like a cost of living increase, Social Security, there's going to be people that say, well, we don't have the money for this after bailout. That's not necessarily true here. And the economy was doing incredibly well before all of this. Do you think that Republicans on the Hill are going to be successful, conservatives, at making sure that seniors are protected, that we give them some of these things that they need, like being able to take money, as you just talked about, possibly without penalties, out of their retirement funds?
I do think that we are hopeful. We are working with a great group of folks that understand that Social Security is, for many, many people, their primary source of income. And to see seniors not get any increase in their Social Security is wrong. It's absolutely wrong. The cost of goods do continue to increase. And although for many folks, they say that the economy is doing well, many seniors are no longer working, and they're not seeing the same benefits that working people are realizing.
Let's talk about the outreach specifically to AMAC members, and that's something that I think is so important. We've seen a lot of engagement from AMAC members with AMAC directly, and you guys have been doing an incredible job of keeping people up to date on the spread of the coronavirus and who it's affecting and what parts of the country where we're seeing things. One of the things that you guys have really done a great job of is talking about implementing polling and listening to the members, and some of that data you're getting back is pretty incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, we do take our marching orders from our members. We do speak with our members and poll them regularly. We urge folks that are watching today to go to the AMAC website, amac.us, and take the poll. Now, interestingly, about 70% of those folks that completed the poll said that they were somewhat or very concerned about the coronavirus, but they were continuing to go on as much as possible as they had been, practicing some social distancing whenever possible, but remaining hopeful and prayerful. So what we're urging our members to do is to be smart. Don't panic. Wash your hands. Stay 6 feet away from people. Cover your mouth when you sneeze or you cough. But ultimately, don't let fear paralyze you. I think together, America is going to come out much stronger. And we urge folks to just remain calm and be smart.
You know, one of the things you talked about is being smart and also remaining calm. You look at the mortality rate that we've seen come out of Italy, some honest numbers compared to what we got with a lot of misinformation coming out of China. What we're seeing is that it's very clear that elderly, the seniors, are the most at risk for having major respiratory issues, major medical issues when it comes to coronavirus. And that's one of the things that I think AMAC has done a great job of, is advocating for seniors to just be smart about this and self-quarantine and listen to the CDC, listen to what's going on locally with the decisions being made by local governments based on the data, because seniors, and we're seeing this worldwide, overwhelmingly are those that are the most at risk of having major medical issues if they do actually get the coronavirus.
That's true. And we applaud Donald Trump for expanding telehealth services to seniors across the country. This is tremendous. It allows folks to engage with their doctor, do it over the phone without putting themselves or other people at risk. And so we urge folks to take advantage of this new rule, whereby the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services will be paying your doctor for a telehealth or over-the-phone consultation. So that's something to look out for and to consider before you get in the car and expose yourself or others.
Well, and you just mentioned this, and it's something that, you know, I've been privy to watch AMAC behind the scenes working diligently to try to make sure this is something that we can take advantage of for our members. And that is news that we're hoping to get out to our members at some point, is that, hey, we have the ability for you guys to now take advantage of these new rules that the president laid out, saying, look, if you're a senior, there's no reason for you to have to necessarily go to a doctor's office, sit around other people that may be infected. That we're gonna waive some of the rules, change how things are being done, so you can get in touch with your doctor via Skype, via FaceTime, just like in many ways you and I are talking right now, but with a doctor.
Yes.
And that's something right now AMAC members need to understand. AMAC is working around the clock to try to also roll this out for membership.
That's absolutely right. And within the next 30 days, we'll be notifying our members how they can gain access to this wonderful AMAC benefit. And I think that our members will be very pleasantly surprised to see what we're going to offer them.
Well,
so thank you.
It goes back to something we talk about here. Make sure you're checking these emails that you get from AMAC. This is one of those things, member benefit things that you're going to be able to get a hold of very soon, as you said, the next 30 days. Make sure you're looking at what we're sending out to you with the literature that you're getting, and also checking the website and amac.us, and also checking our Facebook feeds as well. We are putting out a lot of information right now on coronavirus, specifically relating to seniors in this country, and that's something that you guys have really taken on full speed ahead 24/7, and I think it's a great thing for our members.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you so much for getting the message out there. This is good stuff, very good, valuable information on our website, and coming more in your inbox, in your email.
Rebecca Weber, AMAC CEO, thanks so much for coming on today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben.
I hope many of you have enjoyed this special edition of your AMAC Weekly News. We are going to do everything that we can to keep you up to date on what is going on with the government's response, the medical response, and the financial bailout that is happening in this country. As I said before, make sure that you are checking your emails from AMAC, as we are going to give you the best information that we have as soon as we get it. I'll see you back here next week for another special edition of your AMAC Weekly News. Make sure you share this with your family and friends, and don't forget to make sure you renew your membership if you have not. I'm Ben Ferguson. I'll see you back next week.